right, everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Goalink Show. We got my man Winnie. What's up, dude?
How's it going?
So yeah, this is the second episode. I'm stoked to have Winston. Winston is one of my best friends. We've been friends since second grade, is that right? No.
Yeah, I think even earlier than that.
Earlier?
We knew each other, but weren't like super close. But
yeah, so I've known Winston since he was a little chubby guy, and then he
somehow I grew up.
And then he's grown up to a handsome man. So this means a lot to have Winston on this, just because not only he's a good friend, but we've been through a lot and have had many good conversations. So I think the world and the rest of the community can benefit from one of our conversations, from crazy and funny times and trips, from different relationships to your marriage, to so many different things. So first of all, Winnie, thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for your friendship.
Thank you.
And let's jump straight into it. So why I wanted to talk to you specifically today and have you on this is the risk you took with your job this year. Okay. So tell the audience, give them a background of your previous job, and how secure that was for you.
So yeah, I guess I needed a job to help pay for college, and I kind of went into the automotive industry for 3 years and worked for the same company. For the first 2 years I did automotive sales, and then I went into finance for the last year. And I mean, it was comfortable. I mean, I remember having conversations with Ben even in January of this year saying that I had financial goals for this year and that I was going to do, I remember we were sitting on the beach in Hawaii and we were talking about the goals that I had this year, the things that I wanted to accomplish here at the dealership. And it was interesting that right after that trip in January, I kind of asked myself if that's what I really wanted in life. I was making great money. Had good money in savings, just that I was able to, save up. I felt really comfortable. And I don't know if that was something that bothered me, but at the same time, it was the nature of the job of working late hours and kind of absorbing my Saturdays and my, ultimately in my life. I mean, I really didn't have that much time off, and I couldn't plan any family activities. And the thought of, do I really want to be 50, 55 years old and look back and realize that I just wasted my life working at a car dealership? Or do I want to take a step now? And I mean, obviously when I'm 55, I could retire, probably have a comfortable lifestyle after that. But long story short, I think for me, I was really evaluating if I had much growth opportunity from that point personally. And it's just kind of made me feel comfortable. And I didn't like that.
Yeah, so I love this story. And when you first did it, I remember me and other people being super proud of you, because not a lot of people would make that jump. Because if you're comfortable with money, even like it's a privileged point of view, right? To say like, I'm making money and I'm not happy. Like, that's such a privileged thing. However, it's still important for every human being, and to take that risk is still scary no matter who you are. So that's super cool, and I respect you a ton for making that jump. So I don't know if I've really talked about this. Like, was there a moment that you just decided, or how gradual was the process of really making the decision? Like, okay, like, was there one time or one decision? I think you called me the day that you quit or something, but like, what was that one thing that made you like, okay, I'm making this jump?
I think it started with a good friend of mine that lived in my old neighborhood. He just approached me about a possible job opportunity. I went and interviewed for it, which kind of started the process of thinking the whole thing through.
Yeah.
And from job applications and so many applications to getting denied to interviews
and weird companies.
Like strange opportunities, people telling me different things about myself. But it really came to the point where, my wife and I kind of sat down after all this, and I had made the decision that I was going to quit, but the question was when. And this started probably soon after our trip to Hawaii in late January, but early February is kind of when I made that decision that I wanted to start seeking out different employment. And man, it was scary. I mean, that would probably be the moment, but I didn't want to just jump into something, and that was hard for me because I was so fed up. I imagined this life of having my Saturdays back, of being home at 5:00 or 5:00 to be with my wife. I dreamed of that, and I really wanted it.
You wanted it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not a patient person at all. Like, my wife will tell you right off the bat that I'm not patient. But that was probably the most difficult part of it, is just the patience. After February, I had made the decision, but the patience leading up to getting that job.
And planning.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. I like that. We've never talked about that. And that's huge. Again, what I want to highlight in this community is the process and the patience but really, and even though you say you're an impatient person, but so how long was that? Because that's really, I don't think it was that long in comparison to what some things can take.
Yeah, I mean, it was February is kind of when I started. It was interesting that it led up to being about mid-April. I had 3 different job offers. I really actually had 2, and then I had interviewed at my current job at ADP, and I had told them that I wanted, the opportunity to work there. It rolled out. I had to make a decision on a Thursday. And I remember I had 2 job opportunities that I needed to accept all on Thursday. And Wednesday night late, I got a call from the vice president of sales in Salt Lake for ADP, and he just said, "We want to hire you." So it was an instant, maybe hour conversation with my wife. Should we do it? And my wife, I mean, it wasn't just my sole decision because I wanted her to feel good about it.
Yeah.
And we made that decision together.
That's
and
cool.
I called him back and I said yes, and I denied the 2 other offers. That was tough for me because I was like, is this too fast to make that decision? But it felt right,
You have to make that jump. That's cool.
Yeah.
So just you don't have to get into exact numbers, but how much more or how much less were you making? Like percentage, like 50%?
Oh, I'd say probably close to 50%.
That's crazy.
Off the bat.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? Off the bat, I would say close to 80%.
80% less.
Yeah, because I was going to an apprentice position that was paying close to minimum wage.
Yeah, that's insane. Because really, people would be like, no. Like, people wouldn't do that. Like, that's so much less, but you had other things that you value, like time with your family. And that's, I think, again, that is awesome. And it doesn't matter if it's a job or whatever, like whatever you value, because you could be an entrepreneur, you could be trying to be a dentist or whatever, a yoga instructor or whatever. It's just, what do you value? And it could be, who knows, you could want to work a lot and you could not have like a wife, but what if you're doing certain things that are not helping you achieve that, and you need to make a change like you did.
Right.
So that's cool.
I think one thing I should add real quick is just the fact that when I was unemployed at that moment when I took the job, my old job let me go because I put in a 2 weeks notice, and that just scared me. But that was something that
because you had a 2 week.
I tried to put in a 2 weeks, and they just said you can just go home at this point. And so
what'd you do with your 2 weeks?
I guess you could say I just went on a lot of bike rides, did a lot of processing, and,
which is good though.
I had some me time finally. That was probably the best way to put it, is I had some me time, which is, I think, super important too.
Okay, that's cool. So when did you take the new job? What month?
I started in May of this year.
And then, so we're in October 2018, and tell them what you've already achieved as far as, because you're in, do you call it sales or an account executive, or what are you?
It's like an account executive, but I mean, it's ultimately a sales position. But.
So what have you achieved already in less than a year, which is hard to do?
I would say leading up to it all started out with becoming an apprentice for 4 weeks. I got out of the apprenticeship program in 4 weeks, started as an actual official ADP employee in June. And it was funny because I'm more motivated by traveling than I am by money.
Yeah.
And when my manager told me the first day I started, he says, we've got 3 trips a year. You have what's called Super Starts, you have Trailblazers and President's Club. They'll pay for you to go to all these locations. They said they were going to the Grand Cayman, and I'm like, I want to be on that trip. And so I started mid-June. The contest started the 1st of June, and I wanted to push that contest from the day I started till the day it ended in fiscal September, and I wanted to be on that trip. And I didn't really know that it would be possible because I had all the odds were against me. I mean, I had family vacation in June or July, and I had training for work back east.
Yeah, and you're new.
In August. Yeah, and I was new. So I had to take all of that and try and just run with it from the day one. And it was cool. I mean, I really took heed to my management. My managers played a huge role because they kind of laid out that plan.
Yeah.
And I laid out a plan in my mind of what needed to be done to accomplish it. And you probably don't even know this. Got so stressed out in September, I went to the hospital.
I didn't know that.
So
this is good. We're getting some exclusive material.
So super anxious. Was having heart issues and chest pains, and went to the hospital. And
no, you didn't tell me that.
So crazy. Anyways, but yeah, it stressed me out to the point that I was like, "Holy crap, what am I doing here?"
Because you're trying to get on this trip.
Yeah, it was all anxiety and stress. So, but yeah, we made the trip, so that's good. A few weeks from now, we'll be in the Grand Cayman. But it's interesting for me. That was my motivation to make that, to prove something to myself that I can do it. That I made the right decision, and that was very difficult. But now, like, I can thoroughly sit here and talk to anyone and say, you know what? That decision I made back in April was the best decision I've made, in my financial career.
Yeah.
So.
I love that, dude. Well, congrats. I'm glad you made it out of the hospital.
It was pretty pathetic, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's super. Yeah, some risks don't pay off that quickly.
No.
I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. There's some people who quit their jobs and go after a dream, and years later are still struggling. I mean, you were determined for sure, but what practical things were you doing, or what goals were you setting to keep you on track to reach that?
I think the biggest thing is sticking to the basics of life. I think sometimes we overcomplicate the situation enough. I knew that a goal that we have each week is to have 5 appointments with 5 new business owners, or 5 business owners a week. And I think that I thoroughly had the thought I need to have 10 instead of 5. If 5 is the minimum, 10 is going to be the number I need to hit. As I kept going, that's kind of what I wanted to do. But, one thing that I live by, and I think I told you this, is you can't rely on business owners. Business owners will change and throw stuff at you all the time. I've been so frustrated. But one thing that I've told you, I think, is I learned at some points to manage the controllables, being able to control the controllables.
Yeah.
I can't control what, my prospects are doing. I have control over what I am doing.
Yeah.
So if someone bails on me and bails on an appointment, am I going to sit there and mourn on that appointment, or am I going to grind out, make more phone calls so I can set more appointments?
I like that. That's cool. So the business says you want 5 meetings a week just to make them, or to actually have them go through?
So you're making 5 cold calls to business owners every single week to set 5 appointments for the following week. So that way you're visiting with 5 new business owners, assuming that maybe you'll be closing 2 of those people.
Okay, so you doubled that.
Yeah, at the very beginning, my goal was to double it. But
That's cool. I like that.
But it's not fair enough to say that I got caught up. I got caught up in the job, which is natural, of other things that the actual fun part of the job, which is closing the sales, that I forgot that that's important, which...
Oh, so actually, so you were making meetings, but you didn't close as many as you would like?
No, so I was making like the meetings, so I'd set maybe 2 or 3 weeks of consecutive 10 appointments, but then after that, I was so busy running these appointments that I forgot about the thing that really brought me. Yeah, I was closing, but then I forgot to be setting more appointments for the following week. So then,
okay, gotcha.
I was in a situation where I just had an empty pipeline. I had nothing, and I just well, what's going on? And then I realized, okay, we got to replenish this. So
interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't know you went to the hospital, but that's great.
You gotta laugh at it.
I can picture you.
Oh yeah, I'll have to tell you a little bit more later.
So even though this risk has paid off in less than a year, only what has been 9 months? Less than 9 months. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah. So what do you, whether it's work or other things, like what do you still struggle with to stay motivated, even though you feel like, oh man, this is really worked out? What are you still struggling with?
I would say complacency.
Yeah.
I would think the end of September I made the trip. I felt happy. I knew I was in a comfortable spot. First 2 weeks of October, I had pushed every single bit of my work into September, and I just came into October with the most difficult weeks that I've had ever since I started this job.
Which makes sense. Like whether it's like you just won like a championship,
Yeah.
like an NBA championship, and then or whatever, and the next year or the next, like who knows, maybe you don't train as hard because you feel comfortable.
And
But I mean, we all go through that.
And I think that's probably the fact is that you can't ever be satisfied with just the norm. You have to always be pushing yourself. And I think that's something that's really important that's been good for me at this job is the amount of growth that it's caused me to have just in the period of this year versus the other job. I was just comfortable,
Okay, I love that. So always pushing yourself and not staying complacent, which I love. However, because I believe in that, but also still enjoying the present and being grateful. So how do you practice gratitude or making sure, because Winnie, I know you love the word content. So how do you make sure you are still content, but still pushing yourself the next day?
That's a really good question.
It's a hard harmony to find.
I would say it just comes on a daily basis. I don't think that you can't think about, you really have to think about the now, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
Because we're always thinking about the future.
Mm-hmm.
But you really have to think about what am I doing today to bring myself success in work, success in my personal life.
Yeah.
Did I work out today? Did I spend time with my wife today? Did I spend time with my dog?
Yeah.
Sounds like the little things like that for me, those are important that will make not only today, but tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. And I think that repetitiveness is super important. And for me, a thing that I love to do is work out. I mean, I love that. That's a huge avenue for me to do that. And for me to be able to be content in life in general, I have to be able to have that balance of work, spending time with my family, and I have to have some sort of decent like physical activity in that day to feel content.
Boom. I love it. So what we're going to do at this part of the podcast is, I just thought of this name. It's kind of funny. Tell me what you think, Winnie. It's called Scroll My Soul. What do you think?
Scroll my soul.
So what do you think that means? I'll just tell you. So what I do, so every single day or every other day, I write a thought in my phone that I've learned or been inspired by. And so we scroll through my phone randomly and we just stop on a thought.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
So today I wrote, I'm not sure when this was, don't wait for perfect, it doesn't exist. So don't wait for perfect, it doesn't exist. What does that mean to you?
I don't think anyone, I truthfully believe that there is not going to be a perfection in life. There's nothing that's perfect. There's no perfect situation in general. But how we as human beings, determine the whole outcome of that situation is upon us. So, take someone that wins the lottery. I use that because I was reading the paper this morning, but that's pure joy. Everyone's like, oh, it'd be great to win the lottery, but is that really the best thing for that person? And would that be so perfect?
No, a lot of people blow it, dude, and then they're broke again the next year.
Or something might happen that'll change their life drastically. And so when I think about that, is perfection really the desires that we want as human beings, or is perfection us working each specific day to ultimately just become a better person in general? Because you're never going to be perfect. That doesn't exist. I kind of like the statement. But in hindsight, doesn't mean that we can't strive to be the best person that we possibly can be. No matter what.
I love it, Winnie.
I don't know. That's just something that I think.
That's cool. I like that. And then what resonates with me is, for you taking a risk earlier this year, you could have said, when it's perfect, or tomorrow, or when I make this much more money, I'll do it next month. Or when I get this much in savings, or whatever. You could have kept finding the perfect environment or the perfect situation before you did it, but you didn't, because it doesn't exist. Just with what you said, with when we're trying to work on ourselves, it doesn't exist. And you can try and work on so many things to get it perfect, but eventually you just need to jump. You just need to do it.
And I think one thing to tie into that, just to say that, is that time is like an enemy at that point. Because if you wait, if I would have waited, for me, you have to sometimes think of the future. And for, a big decision for me was that, where am I going to be at when I'm 55 years old? Is it going to be too late? So I need to start doing this evaluation now. I'm 27 years old.
Yeah.
And it's a big crucial time in my life to make this jump. So I need to do it now or never. I mean, that's really kind of what went through my mind.
I like that, and it's opportunity cost too. So even if you wait a month, you could have spent that month building your business or doing something else.
I wouldn't have made this trip.
Yeah.
I mean,
interesting.
You think about the whole thing. I wouldn't have made this step, which would have cost me the opportunity to push myself to make this.
And the grain came in, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you look at the good part. I wouldn't have gone to the hospital, but I guess but that's
such a small price to pay.
Yep, it is.
Well, I guess because it wasn't that serious.
No, but I mean,
and you've done this with the support of your lovely wife, Madison.
Yeah, and I think my friends have supported me. I mean, you've supported me from day one, so it's been cool.
All right, well, thank you, Winston. Do you have any last advice or tips for the community?
Just go big. I think the biggest thing that I could say is just don't be scared to make that jump.
Yeah.
But then again, don't make any rational or crucial decisions that like obviously, like I would say that if you're making a big jump like that, don't just make the jump and think that money's going to come to you. Like you need to know that you have your ducks in a row. And that's something that I work towards. Is I didn't just make the leap of faith and say, I'm going to just spend all this money possible in this year. Like you really have to button up and make sure that you're being diligent with yourself so you can make those types of decisions.
And you put in the work every single week to make that happen.
Exactly.
Boom.
So.
All right, sir. Well, thank you for being on the second episode of the Goalink Show. Appreciate it, man.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay.
What's up, Goalink community? Thanks for tuning in this week. This week's challenge is inspired by Arvo. Arvo watches. Be good, do good. By doing a kind act for your partner, family member, friend, or even a stranger. Just one act per day. Do something that you wouldn't usually do. Get them flowers, cook dinner, call them up out of the blue and just listen for an hour. Buy the car's coffee behind you at Starbucks. Get creative and let us know how it goes. There are a few ways you can report back once you complete the challenge. You can post on Facebook or Instagram and use hashtag GoalinkChallenge. Comment on this episode's specific post on Facebook or Instagram. You can send us a private message or use the Goalink hotline. To use the hotline, call 385-626-0525 and follow the instructions. And this challenge is special because we're doing a giveaway. So for anyone who reports back and completes the challenge, Arvo has been gracious enough to select one person, randomly select a person, and we are going to award them a watch. So if it's not already incentive enough to do it to improve yourself and get out there and make yourself uncomfortable, you might have a chance to win a watch. So thank you for tuning in. My name is Ben. This has been The Goalink Show.